Thanks for joining me in this brief video guide for Skyrim with Requiem, and today we'll be talking about archery, namely how to defend against it. If you're like me and you enjoy playing light armored or mage style characters, the early bandits you run into wielding bows or crossbows can actually be a big barrier to your progress. And I think people who are new to the Requiem mod are often caught by surprise from this, because the experience of playing against archers is so very different in the Requiem mod as compared to the vanilla versions of Skyrim, or really any other mod out there that you can find for the game. So in this video, I hope to pull back the curtain a little bit so you have a better understanding of how the archery mechanics work when you're on the receiving end, the types of armor that you can use to defend against it. Some of these might actually surprise you, and in the latter half of the video, I'll get into some special skills or tactics that you can use in order to make the early archers more manageable and make your progression through the early game a little bit easy and more hassle-free. So buckle in and let's talk about defending against archery in Skyrim with Requiem. If an archer kills you in one shot, obviously it does more damage than you had hit points, but how much damage can you expect an arrow shot to actually do to you? You can get a rough estimate just by picking up a low-level bow and a steel arrow and summing those up and seeing how much damage they deal. So as a rough estimate, I'd say a bow shot from your average bandit will probably do somewhere between 100 to 150 points, and a crossbow shot anywhere between 130 to over 200. Bear in mind that Requiem bandits do come with perks, so their damage is going to be multiplied, and you should keep that in mind when you're deciding how much health your character should have. I've found that having about 150 or even better 200 health is enough to avoid being one-shot by archers, but aside from investing your level ups there, how else can you get some Fortify health gear? It's actually pretty rare to find in Requiem, but if you go through the opening rooms of Sarthal and pick up the enchanted rings, those will give you plus 20 and access to the enchantment to craft onto your other gear items, or you can use a consumable like the beef stew or a Fortify health potion to make yourself more resilient for some tougher fights. Your best line of defense against incoming arrows will be your armor, and Requiem has the same formula as Skyrim for deciding how your armor rating turns into damage resistance, but it also adds a unique system where the material that your armor is made out of can also give you bonus against particular types of attacks. So if you're using a leather-based armor, you'll have a rank 1 ranged attack resistance equivalent to an extra 50 armor rating. As you get into higher levels of material such as elven, glass, or dragon scale, then that rating increases. But there's actually a very early game armor available as early as Helgen, which is surprisingly good against ranged attacks, and that is the Stormcloak cuirass, so consider putting that on if you're having troubles with archers early on. Also, what if you're a mage and you want to be wearing robes? Well, consider putting on a light armored glove and boot combination, because Skyrim gives you a hidden bonus of 25 armor rating per piece worn, which can get you up to at least over 100 armor rating and stop you from dying randomly to oncoming arrows. There are several spells within Requiem that are very helpful in fighting archers, even if you're not a dedicated mage. The first of those is Blur, an apprentice-level illusion spell. You can practically use this with just an investment of 2 or maybe 3 perk points within the illusion tree. What Blur does is give you a small boost to your armor rating, but more importantly, a large reduction randomly chosen for ranged damage taken, and that reduction is a random value chosen between 50 and 300 when the spell is empowered, meaning that arrows can either do a heavily reduced or no damage to you at all. There are 2 downsides to using Blur. The first is that it may require several training levels to get your illusion up to 35, where the skill actually starts to become useful. The second is that because of its ongoing mana drain, you either have to drink potions or keep a close eye on your magicka, or it may go down at an inconvenient moment. The next spell worth knowing about is Summon Spectral Wolf out of Conjuration, and any minion will work really as long as it can distract the archer long enough for you to close distance or get into a better position, but the wolf is especially good because it's fast moving, it's aggressive, and it does a really good job at tanking some hits for you. Even if you don't want to invest anything into Conjuration, you can often find scrolls to summon a spectral wolf, or if you decide to invest a little bit more heavily and take the apprentice level perk, you can also get the summon ghostly warhound, which is an upgraded version of the wolf in every way. It's faster, deals more damage, and often can take out archers entirely on its own. Now that we've covered preparations, let's talk about some simple tactics you can use when playing against archers. First, use a crossbow. Archers are usually light armored, so one crossbow shot is often enough to take them out of the fight entirely, and not having to draw back a bow gives you a big advantage in getting the first shot off. Second, if you have the option, try to shoot the archers first when you enter a fight using whatever bow or magic abilities that you have. It may be very tempting to loose your arrow at the guy who's immediately chasing you, but the melee enemies are often less damaged by arrows than the archers would be because they typically have better armor. And if you let the archers sit back and aim at you, they can take pot shots while you're trying to do the rest of your fight. Third, keep in mind that the enemy AI is not obstructed by things like leaves, grass, and so on, so they may have a better view than you actually do. Make use of your compass instead so you can tell where the little red dots are. Anything that's not charging after you is probably aiming a bow at you instead, and you should be taking evasive maneuvers in advance or looking for some sort of distraction so that you don't get picked off by them at range. Lastly, use terrain to break line of sight between the archer and you. Sometimes they'll either run out of arrows or put away their bow and come at you with a melee weapon, which makes them a lot easier to deal with. So that's about all I had to say about fighting archers in Requiem, but I'm sure there's a lot of other tips out there, so if you have anything particularly good, please leave it in the comments so that other people can benefit as well. And as always, if you're enjoying this sort of content, please do hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos in the future.